Copyright disclaimer. Is English created to be the one-word language? It was said to be the universal language or the worldwide language, as it is estimated that 2 billion people throughout the land is using English as a form of communication, including the Philippines as its co-official language alongside the national language that is Filipino. Where am I even going with this one? YahuwahDOT, in all of his existence, has been trying to mimic what our Most High Yah has created and done. He wanted to sit down at the throne wherein our Creator is residing, hence He built the Tower of Babel that is eventually destroyed, and the multitudes of languages created in order to confuse humanity as pride had taken hold of them. It seems logical that YahuwahDOT would create another language, or one language that people can use in order to bring back this plan. As a child, I used to do mirror writing or reverse writing as a hobby, not even knowing why or how did I get it. Looking back, I believe it is because the original language, that is Hebrew, goes from right to left, and the English one had been reversed. Without further ado, let me share to you the history of English language.
Anglo-Saxon, or whatever happened to the Jutes. The English language begins with the phrase, "Up yours, Caesar," as the Romans leave Britain, and a lot of Germanic tribes start flooding in. Tribes such as the Angles and the Saxons, who together gave us the term Anglo-Saxon, and the Jutes, who didn't. The Romans left some very straight roads behind, but not much of their Latin language. The Anglo-Saxon vocab was much more useful, as it was mainly words for simple everyday things like house, woman, loaf, and werewolf. 4 of our days of the week were named in honour of Anglo-Saxon gods. While they were away, Christian missionaries stole in, bringing with them leaflets about jumble sales and more Latin. Christianity was a hit with the locals and made them much happy to take on funky new words from Latin like martyr, bishop and font. Along came the Vikings, with their action man words like drag, ransack, thrust and die. They may have raped and pillaged, but they were also into give and take, 2 of around 2,000 words they gave English, as well as the phrase, "Watch out for that man with the enormous axe." Chapter 2, The Norman Conquest, or Excuse My English. 1066. True to his name, William the Conqueror invades England, bringing new concepts from across the Channel like the French language, the Doomsday Book, and the duty-free Gaulois multipack. French was de rigueur for all official business, with words like judge, jury, evidence and justice coming in and giving John Grisham's career a kickstart. Latin was still used ad nauseam in church, but the common man spoke English, able to communicate only by speaking more slowly and loudly until the others understood him. Words like cow, sheep and swine come from the English-speaking farmers, while the à la carte versions, beef, mutton and pork, come from the French-speaking toffs, beginning a long-running trend for restaurants having completely indecipherable menus. All in all, the English absorbed about 10,000 new words from the Normans, though they still couldn't grasp the rules of cheek-kissing. The bonhomie all ended when the English nation took their new warlike lingo of armies, navies and soldiers and began the 100 Years' War against France. It actually lasted 116 years, but by that point no one could count any higher in French, and English took over as the language of power. Chapter 10. Global English, or whose language is it anyway? In the 1500 years since the Romans left Britain, English has shown a unique ability to absorb, evolve, invade, and if we're honest, steal. After foreign settlers got it started, it grew into a fully fledged language all of its own, before leaving home and travelling the world, first via the high seas, then via the high-speed broadband connection, pilfering words from over 350 languages and establishing itself as a global institution. All this despite a written alphabet that bears no correlation to how it sounds and a system of spelling that even Dan Brown couldn't decipher.
Could it be that it was intentionally made in order to replace the original one, that is Hebrew, let me share to you the beauty of the Hebrew Alefbet.
Each letter of the alphabet has its own meaning, and we can come up with the names for things by stacking together the right set of ideas.
The major premise we have as Jews is that Hashem created the world by first creating the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and by combining letters together, He created the reality of everything that we know.
The first letter is Aleph, and Aleph always has a connection to God. That might be why it's the only letter in the alphabet that has no pronunciation. It's not a vowel, it's not a consonant, it's completely silent. And you can find that connection to God in the words that begin with Aleph. Aleph means the leader of an army. Achav, that's a good one, that means love. Second letter is Bet. Greeks got the word for alpha, Bet, and it means a tent or a house. You can even picture a little guy standing in there somewhere. So the word for household is Bayet. The word for womb is Beitin. And really interesting, if we put a bet at the beginning of any word, it just becomes a preposition that means inside that thing, like a house for that word. So in the womb is Bay Betin, and in the house is Bay Bayet.
I wonder if the word Bimashiach means under or inside Mashiach's wings. Anyhow, let's go back to the video.
Really cool, the word for the first city in the Bible is Babel, and that word also starts with two of these bad boys, Bet, Lamed. That Lamed means royalty or something special. It's the tallest letter of the alphabet, rising a head and shoulders above all the rest. So it makes sense that the second letter of words like Eluf and Elohim, which is the word for God that means majesty, would be a Lamed, because there's a sense of royalty in those things. So the word for Babel, or Babel, carries within the name itself the idea of what it is. It's a royal, not just a royal house, but a royal set of houses. Fun fact, that word that would just be royal house, one Lamed and one Bet, is the word Lev, which means your heart. Spin. If we have Aleph and Bet, we have the word Av, which means father, a connection to God in the home, which, like Hebrew, tries to describe reality from the inside.
That's why in Hebrew, by the way, what's the word for thing? Davar. What's the word for word? Davar. Why is it the exact same word in the Holy Tongue? Because when God spoke it, it became the thing.
Did you know that there's a word in the very first verse of the Bible that hasn't been translated into English? I'm serious. Genesis 1:1. Wad. Bereshit, in the beginning, Bara, created, Elohim, God. But wait a minute, what is that word? And why hasn't it been translated? Et. What is et? Well, if we take a closer look at this word, it's two letters. We have an Aleph, which is the first letter of the alphabet, and a Tav, which is the last.
Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created et. He created the Aleph through Tav. That was the first creation. The creation of the Alefbet, of the alphabet.
A lot more to the story of the word et, because it doesn't just exist in Genesis 1:1. It actually appears over 11,000 times throughout the Bible, and it's never ever translated. But many Torah scholars say that the first time that it appears in the Bible, it means literally God created the alphabet. And this seems like a pretty compelling theory, given that the very next thing God proceeds to do is form reality by speaking the names of things.
Shem or name, Shemot names are also Exodus.
And then he gives our species a name, and then our first job is to name the other creatures. I had always wondered why the Bible seems to be so obsessed with names, and it may be because in the very first verse, we completely ignored the meaning of a word.
Et, Aleph, Tau. I am the Aleph and the Tau, says Yahuwah, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. And Yahushua HaMashiach, the Ben Elohim, bears his name, as it means the deliverance of Yahuwah. There's something more amazing in the pictographic Hebrew. It consists of hand, behold, nail, behold, or elaborately, behold, the hand that brings life through the nail. And Yahushua's name consists of hand, behold, nail, sharp, nail, eye. The hand that brings life through the nail, the sharp nail that opens the eyes. Pretty amazing, huh? May this be edifying unto us all. Praise be to Yahuwah, our Father and Almighty, through Yahushua, our Messiah. Shalom!